Part 8. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 71. Chapter 71 was photographed and made shocking news. Xia Ling's eyes grew cold. Xia Yu, I have no interest in getting involved in your affairs. Don't drag me into it. Xia Yuro looked at her weakly, the resentment in her eyes flashed away. Yasin Ling, how can you be an outsider? Since you have accepted Brother Zion's flowers, don't play hard to get tricks. People like you have no background. How could a young star with a background and no background really reject Brother Zi Hung? It seems that she knows a lot. Did Pei Zion tell her, or Chu Chen? It was probably Chu Chen. It only took Xiaoling a few seconds to figure it out. Pei Zion had always kept his emotions and anger hidden, hiding his thoughts very deeply and never confiding his private matters to others. Chu Chen, on the other hand, was good at observing people's emotions and getting some information. It is very possible to please Xia Yu. This also shows that Xia Yu's status is higher than that of Pei Zion and others. So, with Chu Chen's shrewdness, he could safely tell her the information without fear of Pei Zion being blamed. Xiaoling's eyes swept over Xia Yu and landed on the girl beside her, Zhang Suxin. Judging from the conversation I just heard, this Zhang Suxin is currently Pei Zion's most favored lover. However, there are still faint traces of redness and swelling on this girl's face, which was slapped countless times by Xia Yu's messenger. Without Pei Zion's acquiescence, Xia Yu would not be so arrogant. Since when did Xia Yu hold such a heavy weight in Pei Zion's heart? Xiaoling felt a little bitter. Then she thought about it. Why should she be bitter? She has already died once, so why worry about gain and loss? She will never come back to him anyway. Even if his harem is full of fights, what does it have to do with her? The cell phone rang again. Xiaoling put away her emotions and looked down at the screen. Wei Shaiyin saw that the missed call that caused her to be discovered by Xia Yu was also from him. Xiaoling couldn't help but curse in her heart. It was true that this person was a pig teammate. How come every time she wanted to run away in front of an old acquaintance, he was able to spoil her at just the right time? Press the answer key. As a result, he scolded her first. Where did you die? The Emperor's people are not here, come here quickly. We occupied the venue and started filming. Of course the Emperor's people are not here. Even the NG sufferer and the mastermind behind the trouble are busy entangled with her. Xiaoling didn't explain anything to Wei Shaiyin, she just said, I understand. She hung up the phone, looked at the two people in front of her, and said in a cold voice, sorry, I have to leave beforehand. Yasin Ling, stop. Xia Yu stopped in front of her without mercy. She finally became irritated. Xia Yu, do you think everyone is like you and wants to climb into Pei Zion's bed? Please understand, it is Pei Zion who is pestering me now, not me pestering him. You don't have time to plan this plan and that. It is better to recognize the reality as soon as possible and give up on the desire to let Pei Zion live forever. Xia Yu's face turned pale when someone poked her at the center of things. Xiaoling took a few steps to the side to avoid her, but was stopped by her with a pale face. Yasin Ling, don't go too far. She still looked weak and trembling with anger. Who on earth wants to climb into Brother Zion's bed? If you didn't seduce him, how could he give you flowers? You, why are you so mean? Since you are a bitch, don't even think about setting up a memorial hall. Look at you, you are poor and ugly, and you don't know what it is about you. It's because you are too promiscuous and shameless in bed that you let him. Snapped. Xiaoling raised her hand and slapped her. Xia Yu fell to the ground after being beaten by her, covering her face with one hand, with tears in her eyes. You hit me. Her eyes were filled with accusations and disbelief, and she looked extremely innocent and weak. Xiaoling was also a little startled. Although she was angry with that slap, her years of sisterhood still allowed her to subconsciously control the force. She knew the severity well, and there was no way she would hit someone to the ground. Before she could figure it out, the shutter clicked one after another amid the lightning flashes. Xiaoling suddenly turned around and saw a heavily armed reporter appearing in the shadow of the bushes behind her. He was holding a camera in his hand and frantically taking pictures of her and Xiaoyu on the ground. Xiaoling understood instantly, Xiaoyu must have seen this reporter just now, so she took off her usual weak white lotus mask and insulted her with vicious words. From this distance, the reporter couldn't hear what they were saying, but he could clearly take the photos. As long as Xiaoling was angered and beat someone, then all the blame would be on Xiaoling. With her body faster than her mind, Xiaoling chased after the reporter. That reporter was a veteran paparazzi for many years and had rich experience. The moment Xiaoling turned her head and saw him, she had already sprinted away. The terrain of the film and television city is complex and difficult to track. Although Xiaoling's physical strength is good among girls, it is still not as good as that of a man who has been exposed to the sun and rain all year round. After a few minutes, he lost his target. Xiaoling stopped and called Sister Mena immediately, explaining the situation in a concise manner. Sister Mena was working in another city. When she received the call, she immediately understood the seriousness of the matter. She didn't bother blaming Xiaoling and just said, "I'm going to say hello to all the major media. You should also be careful over there and ask Awei to send a few trustworthy people to search for that reporter." Xiaoling agreed and hung up the phone. Actually, both she and Sister Mena knew that in this case, the reporter would 99% not stay in the film and television city anymore. Would he be caught if he had captured such powerful material? He must have rushed back to deliver the news. But she still called Wei Shaiyin. Wei Shaiyin went crazy and cursed, "You are a pig," and immediately sent people to search. Xiaoling smiled bitterly, "Isn't she just a pig?" She should have thought a long time ago that there must be a reason for Xiaoyu's unusual words. Her younger sister has superb acting skills. Instead of singing, she should be a movie queen. However, even if she is a movie queen, she cannot be bullied. Xiaoling was very angry and the consequences were serious. She turned around and walked back the way she came. Back to the original place, Xiaoyu is still crouching softly and weakly on the ground, with thin willows supporting the wind, and her face is pale. She was surrounded by many people from the emperor, including the director, stage manager, cameraman, and Chu Chen. When Chu Chen saw Xiaoling, his expression was gloomy. "You still dare to come? Why don't you dare?" Xiaoling raised her head slightly and said arrogantly and coldly. There were more than a dozen people of all sizes around, all of whom were members of the emperor, staring at her with hostile eyes. But she was in it, as if she didn't see it, as arrogant as a queen dominating the world. She walked up to Xiaoyu step by step. "Stand up." Two staff members were beside Xiaoyu, carefully supporting her and helping her stand up. Snapped. Everyone was stunned. Xiaoling struck out at lightning speed. This time, she knocked Xiaoyu away hard. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 72. Chapter 72. I never take my reputation for granted. "What are you doing?" Chu Chen reacted first and got angry. He stepped forward and grabbed Xiaoling's hand. Xiaoling's wrist was clamped tightly by him, which hurt, but her eyes were locked on Xiaoyu coldly. At this time, Xiaoyu was really beaten so that half of his face was swollen, blood oozed from the corners of his lips, and he fell to the mud in an indescribable miserable state. She covered her cheeks. This time, the tears in her eyes were real. "Yeah, Yinlin, how big is the mud?" Half of her face was numb, and she couldn't even speak clearly. Xiaoling understood it. "Why are I beating you?" she smiled, "because, I never take my name for granted. Since Xiaoyu likes to be beaten out, then just beat him out. The reporter's photos were taken anyway." Xiaoyu. Chu Chen. All the emperors present. Many people are complaining in their hearts, Miss Xiaoyu, how did you provoke this female devil? Chu Chen almost crushed Xiaoling's hand bones. Yes, Yingling, you will pay the price for your actions. Assistant Meng, he raised his voice and shouted, protect the scene. Ask a doctor to examine Miss Xiaoyu's injuries. Get a lawyer. Who wants to have their injuries examined and find a lawyer? Another voice sounded coldly, Chu Chen, why are you arresting our Tianyi people? Everyone turned around and saw Wei Shaiyin hurrying towards him, followed by 5 or 6 people from Tianyi. Wei Shaiyin's face was as cold as frost, and she snatched Xiaoling's hand from Chu Chen. Xiaoling, are you injured anywhere? Xiaoling lowered her head and pulled up her sleeves, only to see a circle of ferocious purple on her wrist, which was shocking on her fair skin. Find a doctor, and a lawyer. Wei Shaiyin was instantly angry. Who is Xiaoling? She is the future queen of their Tianyi. It's a precious partner that he holds in his mouth for fear of melting and holds in his hands for fear of falling. Normally he wouldn't even scold her. No, let's forget about that. Anyway, how dare Chu Chen do this to her? The two sides are at war with each other. Seeing the conflict getting more intense and unable to end, Xiaoling suddenly laughed softly. Okay, Wei, she said, let's break up, we have to catch up on the filming schedule. She was the one taking advantage now. She slapped Xiaoyu twice in total, and the bad temper in her heart was almost gone, not to mention the publicity. The progress of the film cannot be delayed. Speaking, she turned around first and walked back. Stop, Chu Chen thought she was scared. You can hit people when you want and leave when you want. Our doctors and lawyers will be here soon, you have to give us an explanation. If you have any questions, talk to our lawyer. Xiaoling was too lazy to pay attention to him and urged Wei, are you leaving? Finish shooting the promotional video and return to the city early. What's the point of getting mixed up with the emperor and these bastards? Who are you talking about? Xiaoyu's face was swollen and her speech was unclear. Xiaoling looked at her with a half smile but said nothing. But the meaning in her eyes was too obvious. You are the bastard, how about it? Xiaoyu was furious and wanted to rush forward and fight her, but he was afraid of her overwhelming fighting power and stopped moving forward. There is no way. Who told Xiaoyu to pretend to be a White Lotus all the time? Have you ever seen White Lotus charging into battle and fighting with someone? The style of painting is wrong. Hence, Xiaoyu, who had a wrong style of painting, had to endure the situation silently, knocking out his teeth and swallowing blood. Wei Shaiyin looked at Xiaoyu's blue and white face that was still red and swollen, and she was also happy. Well, his Xiaoling was the most powerful. With just a few words, she could make her enemies angry to death. Wei Shaiyin, who was in a better mood, thought it was time to catch up on the promotional video, so she asked everyone in Tianyi to leave. Chu Chen still wanted to stop him, but Wei Shaiyin followed suit and said, if you have any questions, talk to our lawyer. Forcibly pushed Chu Chen back. Although the emperor had more than a dozen people, he could only watch 5 or 6 people from Tianyi walk away. This feeling was really terrible. Xiaoyu gritted her teeth, yes Yingling, just wait. When the news comes out this time, let's see if I don't kill you. Xiaoling didn't hear the curse in her heart, and followed Tianyi and his team back to the set to continue filming. Maybe it was because of the quarrel with the emperor, or maybe it was because he felt sorry for Xiaoling's wrist injury, but the number of times Wei Shaiyin cursed and yelled NG decreased a lot this afternoon. The filming went surprisingly smoothly. All the staff worked together and took advantage of Wei Da's abnormal release to finish filming all the remaining scenes. Finish the work victoriously. The next day, Xiaoling packed her things and took a plane back to the city. Unexpectedly, as soon as I arrived at the apartment, the doorbell rang. She opened the door and it was Sister Maina. Wearing a burgundy professional suit, Sister Maina rushed into the living room in a hurry and handed a stack of newspapers to Xiaoling. The news report about yesterday's incident has come out. Take a look. Xiaoling took it and saw an eye-catching title on the entertainment page. Xiaoyu suffered a heart attack after being slapped on location. Is Ling the culprit? There are several pictures beside it, all of which show her waving her hand and slapping Xiaoyu on location yesterday. The reporter had good photography skills and chose a tricky angle. With her straight back facing Xiaoyu's frail figure, her look of disbelief and hurt, the atmosphere of bullying was vivid. If you just look at those photos, even Xiaoling herself would believe that she bullied Xiaoyu. Read the text carefully. She was indeed talking about what happened on location yesterday. According to reports, as early as the beginning of the filming, Ling repeatedly made trouble for Xiaoyu due to location conflicts, but Xiaoyu had a weak temperament and would tolerate it again and again. Unexpectedly, during the lunch break yesterday, Ling once again made provocative remarks. Not only did her words mock Xiaoyu harshly, but she also insulted Xiaoyu's dead sister, Queen Xiaoling. This time, Xiaoyu, who had a very deep relationship with her sister, could no longer tolerate it and defended her sister for a few words. Unexpectedly, she completely angered Ling and Ling slapped her hard in the face. She slapped him to the ground and walked away. Xiaoyu's heart attack relapsed and she was admitted to the hospital for emergency treatment that night. Excellent report. Xiaoling slowly closed the newspaper. No one knew Xiaoyu's heart condition better than she did. She was fully involved in all treatment plans and condition monitoring back then. She was certain that Xiaoyu's congenital heart disease had completely recovered many years ago. Having a heart attack again? Ridiculous. Sister Maina also said, I asked someone to check, and she didn't have a recurrence of heart disease at all. But at this time, she had time to teach Xiaoling, what happened to you yesterday? How did you provoke the emperor, people? Have you become stupid after being together for a long time? Xiaoyu's new album has been overshadowed by your debut song. They must have disliked you for a long time and have been looking for opportunities. Get rid of you, why are you so stupid, and send me to your door to give someone an excuse. Xiaoling remained silent, feeling that Sister Maina was right to scold her. She was stupid yesterday and didn't notice the acting skills of that good sister, so she was photographed by reporters. But, she thought about those 2 slaps, and found that they were quite relieving, so she sincerely promised Sister Maina, next time I spank her, I will definitely find a time and place where no one can take pictures. Sister Maina. Has this girl contracted black habits after living next door to Lily for a long time? End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 73. Chapter 73. Ling gets out of the entertainment industry. This time, I didn't handle it well. Sister Maina rarely reflected on herself. If she hadn't greeted the media properly, they wouldn't have written it like this. Xiaoling shook her head, I don't blame you. Emperor and Tianyi are equally powerful. In fact, if we really talk about it, Emperor is the one with the deeper roots and has been the dominant player in the entertainment industry for a long time. Sister Mai Na knows how to greet the media, and Chu Chen must also know that the methods of coercion and inducement are no worse than Sister Mai Na. When the 2 giants are equally matched, the media will definitely choose the one with more information. No matter how you look at it, the whitewashing of Ling is mediocre. However, Ling insulted the Queen Xiaoling and harmed her frail sister, which is the super eye-catching highlight. Businessmen pursue profit, which is also a helpless thing. Sister Maina frowned, the situation is getting tricky. Xiaoling asked, what should I do? Sister Maina glanced at her and said, I want to hear what you mean. In fact, she already had a plan in mind, but it was a sideways approach that was extremely dangerous. If she won, she would become famous in one battle, but if she lost, she would be completely defeated. Before speaking out, she had to make sure that Xiaoling was brave and smart enough to afford such a plan. Xiaoling didn't know what she was thinking. She lowered her head and pondered for a moment. When she raised her head again, a clear sneer appeared in her eyes. Didn't I just slap that bitch? What's the big deal? Just admit it. Sister Maina also slowly laughed. This girl has a good temper. Xiaoling recognized it. This admission, of course, is not an admission of failure, but I just beat her, how about it? This sentence was posted on the official Weibo of Yexingling that afternoon, causing an uproar. Everyone was surprised by her magnanimity and arrogance. How could she be so nonchalant, so vicious, and so shameless when she beat up the sister of Queen Xiaoling? Public opinion is boiling. This Weibo post was forwarded by thousands of people and made headlines in major media and forums. Although Xia Yu himself did not have many fans, after the death of Queen Xiaoling, she left behind countless die-hard fans. They all spontaneously and voluntarily defended the Queen's favorite sister during her lifetime. With such a huge crowd of people, one person could drown Yexingling with just a spit of spit. Even many passers-by and onlookers who did not know the truth, after reading this Weibo post, also accused Yexingling of being shameless and lacking in quality. They accused her from the moral high ground, criticizing her verbally and in writing. In just a few hours, she gained notoriety. Even the official Weibo account was invaded by angry crowds, and every post was filled with obscene abuse. At first, Xiaoling's lifelong fans retorted weakly, but they were soon submerged in the crowd tactics and could not stir up any waves. Many fans even felt that she went too far, and her fans turned negative and became a member of the abusive army. Xiaoling sat in front of the computer and read Weibo with Sister Maina. Sister Maina said, "This is just the beginning, are you scared?" The dim light of the computer screen reflected on Xiaoling's face, making her fine eyelashes look like crow feathers and sweeping out a small, light shadow under her eyelids. She tilted her head slightly, holding a blue and white ice-cracked porcelain cup in her slender white hands, and slowly took a sip of tea. "What are you afraid of?" Her voice was clear and clear. She had experienced no matter how big the storm was, so what did this mean? Sister Maina smiled and ruffled her broken hair. Then, let's move on to the next step. Xiaoling put down the porcelain cup in her hand and typed a line of text on the screen. "I hit her because she deserved to be hit." As for why, she knew it in her heart. She knew whether she had a heart attack or not. Press to send. Weibo was once again abuzz, and this time, more people were hurling abuses. "What do you mean you should be beaten? Yexingling, if you have the ability, just speak clearly." Yes, it was obviously you who scolded Xiaoling, and Xia Yu was beaten by you for defending her sister. Why don't you tell me the reason? You feel guilty, bitch. You must be scared when you see so many of us scolding you. Now, I'm starting to make excuses. That's it, you're a coward who shirks his responsibilities. My Xiao had a heart attack due to you, and you still falsely accused her of not having the disease, you shameless woman. Untutored trash. That's so vicious, I really regret buying your single. Boycott Yexingling. Yexingling, get out of the entertainment industry. Yexingling, get out of the entertainment industry. All the calls finally merged into the slogan Yexingling, get out of the entertainment industry, which continued to flood Weibo. Countless people retweeted this Weibo post, along with this slogan, and the momentum was huge. There was a strong trend that they would not give up until she was kicked out of the entertainment industry. Xiaoling silently turned off the computer. The next day, her official Weibo was hacked, and it was filled with words asking her to get out, apologize, and get out of the entertainment industry. She didn't even bother to look, so she made a cup of scented tea and locked herself in the room to practice singing. Li Lei called, "Xiaoling, are you okay?" He flew to Manhattan these days to handle a business, which was of great importance. Tan Ying didn't dare to disturb her, and she didn't report her predicament to him until now. Xiaoling was half leaning on the swing chair in front of the floor-to-ceiling glass window, with her slender legs curled up, and her fingertips lightly traced the music score of black notes on a white background. "I'm fine." Li Lei was slightly relieved when he heard her tone was as usual, but still asked, "Do you want my help?" A smile appeared on Xiaoling's lips. No need. She didn't notice that her expression became calmer and softer than usual, as if the thorns that had been standing upright fell down at the moment of his concern. Although she could bear the harsh criticism from the outside world, it was impossible to say that she didn't have any grievances and waves in her heart. Having a mother-in-law, there is no mother-in-law. A like you is only worthy of betraying everyone. One sentence touches the heart. And his phone call from across the ocean was like a cup of warm tea in the cold wind, bringing her rare comfort. She will win this war. Everything she suffered today will be paid back to Xiaoyu 100-fold in the future. On the third day, her official Weibo was repaired by technical staff. There was still a massive amount of abuse and retweets, and public anger continued unabated. The abuse was much uglier than the previous 2 days. Moreover, because they did not get another response from her, they ridiculed her for being a coward who dared not stand up and speak out. Official micro-traffic has been increasing rapidly, and her popularity is more than her previous combined. Some media commented, "Is Ye Xingling using this method to gain popularity for herself? Does she think that she can become famous just by having a fight? Stop being funny. This kind of reputation gained by scolding will only turn out to be just a clown." All kinds of taunts are flying everywhere. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 74. Chapter 74, Running into Walls Everywhere. She stopped reading the news and concentrated on doing her own thing. On this day, Sister Maina and her assistant Wai Wei accompanied her to the TV station to record announcements. The person in charge of the TV station had a beer belly, rubbed his hands in embarrassment, and said politely, "I'm sorry, Sister Maina, Miss Ye, didn't the staff inform you? This time the announcement has been cancelled." "Cancelled? Why?" Sister Maina frowned. "This." The person in charge glanced at Xiaoling with pretense. "Miss Ye's recent incident has been a bit big. Considering the impact of word of mouth and ratings, the TV station has decided to replace her, so." "Who is it?" Xiaoling interrupted him coldly. "Of course it's Xiaoyu." The person who walked out of the studio was Chu Chen, wearing a suit and leather shoes, with a handsome demeanor. He turned sideways like a gentleman and moved a frail girl to the front. The girl was wearing an exquisite crocheted skirt. She was Xiaoyu. "Ye Xingling, we meet again." Xiaoyu in front of others is always soft and weak, with a soft voice, like a pure and beautiful angel, but she can't hide the gloating and pride in the corners of her eyes and eyebrows. Xiaoling took a step forward. Xiaoyu's beauty suddenly turned pale. She stepped back in fright and pulled Chu Chen's sleeves. Chu Chen, several assistants and bodyguards immediately protected her from behind, and they all looked at Xiaoling with stern faces, as if facing an enemy. "Miss Ye, do you still want to hit someone?" Chu Chen's voice was sharp and could be heard clearly by the entire corridor. People coming and going looked sideways and pointed at Xiaoling. Xiaoling once again underestimated the acting skills of the emperor's bitches. She had no other intention just now and just wanted to take a step forward to talk. She could make Xiaoyu pretend to be a white lotus in an instant, and she suffered a hidden loss. She was about to have a seizure, but Sister Maina was already protecting her behind her. "Chu Chen," her beautiful eyes were almost filled with fire, "your hype methods are really despicable and shameless, and now you are just trying to grab the notice openly. Be careful, I will find a lawyer to sue you. Excuse me, Chu Chen said politely. Let's go. Sister Meina was so angry that her lungs were about to explode, and she hurriedly left with Xiaoling and Wai Wei. Back to the nanny's car. Wai Wei said cautiously, Sister Meina, don't be angry, be careful not to get angry and damage your body. The anger on Sister Meina's face has faded, replaced by a look as cold as frost. She stared deeply in the direction of the TV station and said in a calm tone, Wai Wei, I'm not angry, at least not as angry as I look. Huh, Wai Wei was stunned, then you. I am so angry just to make them relax their vigilance and think that we have run out of skills, Sister Mai Na said, this way our subsequent plans will go smoothly. However, she turned to look at Xiaoling, Xiaoling, you what kind of bad temper is this? Why would you fall for it if I didn't stop him quickly? Slap her again, Xiaoling said honestly. Wai Wei was shocked, Sister Xiaoling, you have been scolded like this, how dare you? Sister Meina rubbed her temples with a headache. Oh my god, what kind of ancestor is this little girl? It's a good thing to have a temper, but this temper is too big. You. She didn't even have the spirit to teach others, forget it, let's go catch the next announcement. I guess there's no next announcement, Xiaoling said lightly. Since Chu Chen had snatched one of their announcements, he would not fail to the second one. She had been partnering with Chu Chen for so many years in her previous life, and she knew his style of doing things best. Either he would not do something, or he would do it without hesitation. She guessed that he might have taken down the 3 or 4 remaining notices she had. Anyway, now that she is at the forefront, those advertising companies are eager to terminate her contract. These people are going too far, Wai Wei said indignantly. They don't even think about it. Even if Sister Xiaoling was scolded during this period, who among the celebrities has not been scolded? Things will pass after a while. The announcement can still be released, no one wants Sister Xiaoling, that's too bad. Sister Meina smiled bitterly, what you said is usually correct, but this time it involves the Queen Xiaoling. Xiaoling nodded silently beside her. It was not that she was narcissistic. The 2 words Xiaoling had become in one death. That life is the final word, the ultimate pinnacle, the perfect legend. Anyone who dares to say a bad word will be attacked by the crowd. What's more, she also hurt her sick sister this time. What should we do? Wai Wei was anxious. Let's go to the next announced location first, Xiaoling said. Even if she guessed that the notice was gone, she still had to confirm it. She wanted to record those who abandoned her in adversity. In the future, when she became famous, even if they cried and begged, they would never think about it again. I have the opportunity to cooperate with her in every detail. Let's go, Sister Meina said in a cold voice, I want to see what the attitude of those people is. At the second announcement location, Sister Meina did not let Xiaoling get out of the car. As an actress, her status should be noble. Their agents and assistants could do these things that were rejected. Xiaoling watched silently and kept her kindness in her heart. The 3rd house, the 4th house. There are 4 companies in total, and all of them have cancelled the announcement of Ye Xingling. 2 of the advertising endorsements even bluntly accused Ye Xingling of being a sales poison. If they use her for advertising, they will definitely lose money and go bankrupt. Sister Meina endured all this anger. When she returned to the nanny's car, her expression was as usual. She just smiled and told Xiaoling that there would be another chance in the future. It's a pity that Wai Wei hasn't mastered her training yet. Xiaoling can see the clues in her angry little face and reddish eyes. Xiaoling's mood also became a little depressed. It was one thing to be blackmailed, but it was another thing to be wronged and ridiculed because she caused the people around her. She felt ashamed of them. I'll give you a short vacation, Sister Meina said to Xiaoling with a smile as she walked downstairs to Xiaoling's apartment. Have a good rest for a few days. You will still be very busy at work in the future. She also smiled, nodded to Sister Maina and Weiwei, and said goodbye. When she returned to the apartment, she could no longer maintain her smile, her face looked tired and sad. It's not like you to do this after not seeing each other for a few days, little beauty. A deep magnetic voice suddenly sounded, startling Xiaoling, who was about to reach out to turn on the light in the living room. Boss, she saw clearly the man on the sofa in the living room. Why are you here? Li Lei's slender and well-proportioned body was leaning on the soft fabric sofa. At his feet, Mao lay leisurely and was sleeping. He held a glass of red wine in one hand, tilted his head slightly, and smiled so brightly that he showed his white teeth. I'll come back to see you after I've finished dealing with things in Manhattan. I brought you red wine, some fruits, and gadgets. In fact, after hearing Tan Ying's report, he deliberately shortened his schedule and rushed back because he was worried about her and wanted to be by her side at such a difficult time. But these words were too embarrassing to say, so he was embarrassed to tell her. Xiaoling passed by him as if sleepwalking and walked towards the workroom. Boss, please do it. She no longer wanted to complain. Li Lei entered her room as if he were entering his own room, and there was no way he could stop him. I'm going to practice singing. She had no energy to force a smile, she just wanted to be alone and lick her wounds. But he said, I will take you somewhere. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 75. Chapter 75. Perfume Spokesperson. He took her to a quiet garden on the outskirts of the city. On a spring night, the silver moonlight shines lightly on the grass, flowers, and trees, and the chirping of insects everywhere is like a pleasant ditty. She saw the elegant wooden plaque in front of the hanging flower door, Gu Yuan. The font is old and powerful, showing the extraordinary magnanimity and skill of the person who wrote it. She blinked, where is this? Before Li Lei could say anything, a figure had already walked out on the stone pavement in the depths of Gu Garden. He was wearing a black mid-breasted coat and carrying a simple smoky Xian-style lantern. When she got closer, Xiaoling saw clearly that it was an elegant man in his 50s with grey hair, wearing half a pair of silver-rimmed glasses on the bridge of his nose. With a gentle smile on his face, he said, it turns out to be Mr. Li, a rare guest. Uncle Joe, long time no see. Li Lei also greeted him happily. Is Grandpa Gu at home? I just came back from abroad and brought him some fresh truffles. Uncle Joe, Gu Yuan's housekeeper, knew that Mr. Gu was partial to Li Lei, so he smiled and said, at home, at home. The old man just had dinner and was playing chess alone in the tea room. You are here to accompany him, Gu. The old man has an eccentric temper, and many important people cannot see him even if they have appointments. However, Li Lei, a junior, somehow caught his eye and can come and see him at any time. Li Lei took Xiaoling in. In the tea room, an old man in his 70s was playing chess alone. He was wearing a cotton suit and had a cup of tea at his hand. Li Lei stood aside and watched for a while, then picked a suitable moment and called out affectionately, Grandpa Gu. Mr. Gu raised his head and saw Li Lei, his eyes showing some kindness. Seeing Xiaoling again, she was a little surprised. This girl is, a nobleman from a prominent family like Li Lei is different from ordinary dudes from nouveau riche families. They all have very good rules, even if there are people outside. No matter how many female companions you have, no matter how messy you play, you will never bring anyone around to your elders. Anyone who can be brought here by him must have an identity. My future girlfriend. Li Lei smiled. No, Xiaoling immediately clarified. Mr. Gu's eyes flickered between the two of them, and he smiled cheerfully, you kid, you brought this girl to me before you caught up with me. Tell me, what do you want Grandpa Gu to do for you? No wonder. This brat would suddenly come to see him, probably because he wanted something from him. Mr. Gu is Grandpa Li Lei's brother. He has watched Lilei grow up and is very familiar with his character. Lilei's little thoughts were exposed, but he didn't feel embarrassed at all. He climbed up the pole and said, "Grandpa Gu knows me best. This time I brought you some truffles from abroad. Please give me one by the way thing." He has always been very good at acting cute in front of his elders. At this time, he held out a box as if offering a treasure. The box was made of transparent material and was vacuum frozen inside. It contained a small piece of truffle wrapped in tinfoil and stained with mud. Mr. Gu's eyes lit up. He took the box and observed it carefully for a moment. It's an Italian white truffle. There are such well-preserved white truffles in this season. Italian white truffles are a treasure among truffles and are also Mr. Gu's favorite. But the seasonality is too strong, so it's hard to eat on a daily basis. Now, Lilei came all the way to send a small piece. Why wouldn't he be delighted? However, Mr. Gu is a shrewd man. "Boy, why did I hear your grandpa say that you went to Manhattan a few days ago?" Lilei smiled innocently and cutely. "After doing things in Manhattan, I know you like to eat white truffles. I just took a trip to Italy. This thing is expensive. I was afraid that others could not pick it up, so I went to pick it up for you." Xiaoling couldn't stand listening to this nonsense. What does Shandao mean? Manhattan is in the United States and Italy is in Europe. Brother, your trip is really smooth. Mr. Gu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "You, tell me, what are you asking me for? Let's talk about it first. I won't agree to anything too outrageous. This guy is so busy with business in Manhattan that he still has time to go to Italy to buy truffles. The bribe seems to be asking for a lot." Mr. Gu quickly blocked his mouth with words before he could speak. Lilei felt aggrieved. "Grandpa Gu, do I seem to be such an ignorant person? It's really a trivial matter, a trivial matter. Don't you have a perfume here? The one called Star Wings. I found one for you, spokesperson." "Is this a trivial matter?" Mr. Gu almost fainted. Their Gu family Chable is in the perfume business. 2 years ago, they made a perfect perfume named Star Wings. Everyone who smells it knows that this perfume is a miracle, and once it is launched, it will become an extraordinary classic in the history of perfumery. The reason why it has not been launched for 2 years is because it has not found a suitable image spokesperson. The Gu family has screened stars all over the world, but has not been able to find anyone who can perfectly interpret the Wings of Stars' temperament. This shows how strict their requirements are and how difficult this task is. But now, Lilei wants this endorsement spot. Mr. Gu was angry and laughing. "I've known for a long time that you have bad intentions. This Star Wing is the treasure of my Gu family's house. Your brother Gu Xiao and sister Gu Yan are counting on it to see if they can continue to have thousands of dollars of wealth and squander it in the future. Tell me, what kind of spokesperson have you found for me? If it's unreliable, I won't agree." Lilei smiled flatteringly. "My Xiaoling, my future girlfriend, the future queen of Tianyi, you see, you have to have status and popularity, and it is suitable to be the spokesperson of Star Wings." Only then did Xiaoling understand what his real purpose was in bringing her here. Can't help but be touched that when all the announcements were made to terminate the contract with her, he spent so much effort trying to get the most important announcement from the Gu family. From their conversation, she had already guessed which Gu family this was. The Gu family, a world-famous Chable with a huge perfume empire. The old man in front of me is probably Gu Lingzi, the founder of Gu's perfume empire. Mr. Gu's eyes were a little more serious than before, and he looked at Xiaoling. "What ability does this little girl have that allows me to hand over such an important endorsement announcement to her?" Mr. Gu said. "Boy from the Li family, don't play tricks with me. I want to hear reliable reasons." He knew Lilei is not an ordinary playboy. He is truly capable and visionary and can do great things, so he is given a chance to fight for it. If his 2 useless grandchildren dared to recommend an ordinary-looking little girl for such an important endorsement, he would have turned against her long ago. Lilei did not immediately answer Mr. Gu's words. Instead, he asks Xiaoling, "Xiaoling, can you pick it up?" End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weiniang. Chapter 76. Chapter 76. Go to the audition first. Xiaoling didn't expect him to ask this question. She was slightly startled before replying, "I want to take a look at the perfume first to understand its style and concept." This was a habit she had developed in her previous life. She would not accept endorsements casually unless it really clicks with her. This is to cherish your feathers and to be responsible for the product. Mr. Gu nodded secretly. This wing of star is too important and can determine the future pattern of the perfume industry. For it, the Gu family has invested countless manpower and material resources. Now that everything is ready, all that is missing is a suitable spokesperson. Whoever wins this spot will become famous in one fell swoop. Mr. Gu had met many models and celebrities and tried their best to compete for a spot, but this little girl in front of him was still undecided even after being recommended to him. She is either too scheming or really cautious. Mr. Gu looked at her carefully. This girl had a pair of clean eyes, without any impurities, as clear as a crystal under the moonlight. However, the longer you look at it, the more you feel that there is a mysterious brilliance and attraction that makes people unconsciously intoxicated and unable to take their eyes away. As expected of the Li family boy, he is neither humble nor arrogant, and does not have the quick success and impetuousness of other artists. Mr. Gu thought that this girl might really be suitable for Wings of Stars. Go to the audition first. Mr. Gu made his decision. Sounding it as an audition, it was basically half decided. There were many people who applied to Mr. Gu for this spot, but Xiaoling was the first one to be recommended by Mr. Gu for the audition. As long as the person recommended by Mr. Gu is not too bad, who dares to have objections? Is the person recommended by Mr. Gu too bad? Who dares to say it's bad? Isn't there something wrong with the old man's vision? Li Lei knew the key very well, and he smiled happily and thanked her again and again. Mr. Gu laughed and scolded, "Little slippery man, you clearly know that your Uncle Gu is responsible for this matter, but you don't go to him, but you want to find me, the old man. Do you think I can't see your little thoughts?" Uncle Gu is the eldest son of the old man, is also the current head of the Gu family, but when it comes to the weight of his words, 10 uncles Gu cannot compare to one old man Gu. Li Lei chuckled, "I knew Grandpa Gu was the most powerful, and I can't hide anything from you. Okay, get lost. Mr. Gu is getting older, and it should be time to enjoy family happiness." However, several of his children and grandchildren dare not show off their anger when they see him. Only Li Lei will be there. He acted coquettishly in front of him, so he loved Li Lei very much in his heart. "Ask Uncle Joe to make some Mingqian Longjing for you to take back. Your Uncle Gu will bring you a new one, so you can drink it. Uncle Gu is a master of tea tasting, and the tea he can deliver to you is not good." Li Lei smiled and flattered the Gu family, and his son happily accepted the tea leaves, and left with Xiaoling. When they were far away, Zhou Bakai said to Mr. Gu, "Old man, it has been found out that Miss Ye is a newly debuted singer from Tianyi, and she has got into some trouble recently." He told her about the incident with Xia Yu in detail. Mr. Gu twisted a chess piece in his hand and slowly dropped it on the chessboard. "I know. Old man," Uncle Joe asked, "Ms. Ye has been scolded so badly recently that she almost has no place in the entertainment industry. She has been rejected by all the announcements. Is it appropriate for her to be the spokesperson for Star Wings? The Li family boy can't go wrong with the person he likes." Mr. Gu still said slowly, "He cares about her so much that he won't let her get involved in this matter. But our Gu family has made a profit. Have we made money?" Uncle Joe was even more puzzled. All the announcements rejected that girl, only our Gu family was not deceived by the rumors and was willing to give her a chance to help her when she needed it. What do you think? After the girl's reputation is restored, how will the outside world evaluate our Gu family? That must be a very high evaluation. Uncle Joe suddenly realized, the effect is much better than simple advertising. Mr. Gu's eyes showed a trace of appreciation. This is the real smart thing about that boy from the Lee family. Even if I knew what happened recently, I would not refuse. What he brings is a win-win opportunity. Uncle Joe nodded. No wonder Mr. Gu likes young Master Lee so much. My incompetent grandson, Mr. Gu suddenly sighed again. If he were half as capable as the Lee family boy, I would be relieved. The third generation of the Gu family is worrying. The chess pieces slowly fell on the chessboard with a lonely knock. Jobo also sighed. Every family has its own scriptures that are difficult to recite. The moonlight is hazy. Xiaoling followed Li Lei out of Gu Yuan, got into the car, and got into the back seat. It was rare for Li Lei not to drive himself today, so the driver did the driving for him, and he followed her into the back seat. Here it is for you, he casually handed the Mingqian tea given by Mr. Gu to Xiaoling. Take it and drink it. Xiaoling refused to accept it. This is for you. She was not stupid. She knew that he came to ask for help for her today, and she felt very guilty. How could she have the nerve to accept his gift? But he said, take it. It's a waste if I hold it, she declined tactfully. I can't drink the good or the bad, so why bother to collect natural things? This is the truth. When she followed Pei Zion, although she received some famous education, she didn't like anything. Pei Zion would never force her to learn something that was impatient. As it happens, tea tasting is one of them. She put the expensive bag of tea back into his arms. Give it back. Before he could speak, he suddenly stopped. In the carriage, a hazy moonlight filtered in through the window, like a thin layer of silver gauze, falling on Li Lei's handsome and quiet eyebrows. At some point, he had fallen asleep, his eyes gently closed, and his breathing long and even. Xiaoling took back her outstretched hand, but couldn't help but have thoughts in her heart. Was it because he was too tired that he didn't drive himself today? If you look closely at his face, you can see that he is slightly haggard and there are light bags under his eyes. He definitely looks like he has not had a good rest. What has he been doing during this time? She suddenly realized that she didn't understand him at all, and their worlds were far apart. The car drove downstairs to the apartment. The driver opened the car door for her politely, then went to open Li Lei's door on the other side. Seeing his sleeping face, he was slightly startled, and then said, Miss Ye, you go upstairs first, I will help the young master. Xiaoling asked, hasn't he slept well recently? The driver was an old subordinate who followed Li Lei all over the world. He replied respectfully, a while ago, the matter in Manhattan was very urgent, so the young master specially shortened the time and hurriedly went to Italy and returned to China early. He was busy, the day and night were reversed, and I fell asleep several times just because of the jet lag. Not to mention sleeping, I didn't even eat well. Xiaoling was stunned. Could it be that he was squeezing herself like this just to rush back to help her? My heart was filled with sourness, I was touched, and I was a little panicked and at a loss. The driver had already helped Li Lei up. As soon as he moved, Li Lei opened his eyes. Are you home? Li Lei was still not quite sober and asked in a daze. We're downstairs, master, the driver replied. Li Lei said his eyes gradually focused on Xiaoling, and he showed a pure and beautiful smile. Xiaoling, he murmured, we are home. She didn't notice that he took advantage of his words, but she just felt guilty. I was too impulsive when I hit Xiaoyu this time. I'm sorry for causing you so much trouble. If she had known this, maybe she would have thought more before taking action. He was still smiling dazedly. Well done, let's see who else dares to bully our Xiaoling in the future. She is the one under his wings, and it is natural to protect her. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 77. Chapter 77. Compare it to a notice. Xiaoling wanted to ask him why he was so nice to her, but when she saw his tired face, she held back. In fact, she vaguely knew the reason in her heart, but she couldn't afford it emotionally or physically and didn't want to think about it deeply. She will do her best to become a more dazzling queen than in her previous life, adding glory to his heavenly skills. This is the only reward she can give. The next day, she went to the audition as agreed, working harder than before and giving full play to her 120% strength. Everyone at the scene was amazed. She was a natural spotlight in front of the camera. Every move, every turn, and every glance back were breathtakingly beautiful. Even if she doesn't bring out Mr. Gu's golden recommendation, she still deserves this endorsement spot. The days are busy again. The Wings of Stars advertisement was secretly shot, as well as a series of stills, promotional videos, and theme songs. The theme song was composed by Wei Shaiyin after confirming the style with Gu. Some time ago, Wei Shaiyin had worked very hard to compose her debut song, but she was suppressed by the black news not long after she became famous. She watched the popularity of Glass Fingertips drop all the way. He was holding back a lot of anger, gritting his teeth at this moment, vowing to make the emperors die in an ugly way. He turned down the invitations from two popular singers and concentrated on composing songs for her. He said viciously, "Xiaoling, don't be afraid, I'm here. What's so great about the emperor? Let me destroy them." That posture made it seem as if the person being bullied was not Xiaoling, but him. Xiaoling was very moved. However, this impression was shattered in less than a few days. Wei Shaiyin had too high a fighting spirit and used all her energy to care and criticize. She brought out her perfectionist nature to the fullest and tormented her to the point of death. Xiaoling felt sadly that he didn't want to help her get revenge, but he wanted to take the opportunity to abuse her. While making music, she took the time to pay attention to the news from the outside world. Xiaoyu's fans, Xiaoling's fans, and passers-by were still overwhelming, scolding her bloody. Comments on her official Weibo account have not been closed, and it has been frantically massacred. It is full of all kinds of unsightly ridicule and humiliation, and greetings to her female relatives, 18 generations of her ancestors. Gradually, some people couldn't stand it anymore. Although Yasin Ling did something wrong, scolding her like this is too much. That's right, so pitiful. Although these sporadic and different voices were quickly drowned in more crazy curses, the slight uproar they aroused still touched the hearts of some people. Seeing that the situation was almost ready, Sister Maina contacted Goose Chable according to the pre-arranged plan and obtained the first part of the well-produced Wings of Stars promotional video, the trailer of Whirling Dance Under the Starry Sky, published on the official WeChat account. In the promotional video, there is a mysterious starry sky, which makes her face quiet, beautiful, and flawless. She wore a light blue-purple tulle dress embellished with stars and diamonds, a silver-white headdress, and shining crystal shoes, dancing gracefully in the quiet light and shadow. That unique posture and gorgeous figure will unknowingly attract even the people who hate her the most. In her crystal white hands, she held a small box. No one knows what is in the box or what product it is, so how dare you ask her to endorse it on the cusp of the limelight? The crowd was once again in a frenzy, with speculations abounding. Xiaoling, on the other hand, just typed lightly on the official website, "The clear will become clear, and the turbid will become turbid." I don't need to defend anything, and I would like to advise some people that instead of deliberately trying to frame others, they should put more effort into their works. The implication is that when you, Xiaoyu, were darkly blackmailing me, I was doing business with dedication. A comparison can tell the difference. Sister Maina praised with satisfaction, "This is the style of a famous person, The aura of a big name, not bad. Thanks to boss, Xiaoling said. If it weren't for Li Lei, she wouldn't have received the notice at all. Even if she wanted to show off her magnanimity and style, she wouldn't have had the chance. Sister Mai Na nodded. Tianyi is just one of boss's many industries. Usually, boss seldom cares about this matter. This time, I also value you. Xiaoling, you have to work hard and don't let boss disappointment. Xiaoling agreed, her mind wandering a little. She wondered what the man who always smiled brightly was doing right now. On the official Weibo, a large wave of Xiaoyu fans were like a group of mad dogs whose feet were stepped on, and they attacked her even more violently. At the same time, perhaps because of conscience, perhaps because they have endured for too long, or perhaps because of the courage inspired by Xiaoling's declaration, the Yexingling fan base, which had been dormant for a long time, finally began to fight back. They desperately confronted Xiaoyu fans, scold. Why are you so arrogant? Our Xiaoling can produce such beautiful works, but what about Xiaoyu? Aside from pretending to be pitiful and framing people, what else can Xiaoyu do? That's right, if you can, compare the announcements, let's see whose work is more perfect. Compare it to a notice. Compare it to a notice. That promotional trailer is so beautiful, all Yexingling fans are full of confidence, and are sure that Xiaoyu can't compare to their idol. After finally being able to catch something that suppressed Xiaoyu's limelight, all Yexingling's fans tried their best. As if they were trying to get rid of the bad breath in their hearts, their screams became louder and louder. How can Xiaoyu fans admit that their idols are inferior to others? For a while, everyone said that if Xiaoyu didn't take action, it would be fine. If he did, Yexingling would be tortured to pieces. Countless enthusiastic fans rushed to Xiaoyu's official WeChat account to leave messages, demanding Xiaoyu to challenge and defeat Yexingling from the announcement. Xiaoyu couldn't get off the tiger, so she had to issue a statement to challenge, okay, let's compete. She didn't know where Xiaoling got the announcement, but according to Chu Chen's investigation, no influential advertisers had cooperated with Xiaoling recently. She guessed that even if Xiaoling did get an endorsement, it would definitely not be a good product. How could it be as good as the 4 or 5 good brands she owns? Some people just like to humiliate themselves. Xiaoyu smiled weakly and spoke slowly, it doesn't matter how beautiful her announcement is. It's all useless without the help of the brand. As for endorsements, it all depends on the effect of the advertisement in the end. It's her turn to cry when the advertising effect comes out. Brother Chu, let's compare Gen-K perfume with her. Although the Gen-K perfume is not as expensive and famous as the Gucciable's perfume, the Gucciable's perfume never hires new people, so the Gen-K perfume is the best announcement that a newcomer who has just debuted can receive. In the beginning, Sister Mai Na spent a lot of effort to take over Xiaoling. Unfortunately, the slap incident happened and she was snatched away by Chu Chen and Xiaoyu. Chu Chen also laughed gloomily, that's right, let's compete in a big way. Let her be completely defeated in front of everyone and never be able to get over again. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 78. Chapter 78. That's the enemy. The emperor made careful plans and arranged for many media to cover the competition overwhelmingly. In the report, Xiaoyu had a pure face, although I just had a heart attack and am still very weak, I will still accept the challenge. I have not framed anyone, and I will prove to everyone that I have always been serious about my work. Fans were all touched. What a heartbreaking girl. It was enough to be beaten innocently, but she had to accept the challenge even though she was sick. In comparison, that stinky woman named Yexingling is simply too mean. She is healthy, but why is she so shameless when she competes with the sick and weak Xiao and takes advantage of others' danger? Another round of ridicule and insults came towards Xiaoling. Sister Maina looked at the disturbing reports and countless rumors on the internet, and sneered, "You can only pretend to be weak after playing around. Does Xiaoyu think this trick is so effective?" Xiaoling smiled bitterly. It was quite useful. In her previous life, she had been deceived by this good sister who pretended to be weak and pitiful. Xiaoyu has mastered this trick, and he can win the sympathy of a large number of people by using it casually. Public opinion always favors the weak, so Xiaoyu's delicate image is naturally more flattering than Xiaoling. Xiaoling is too independent, to the point of being aloof and indifferent. This image is completely opposite to the Virgin White Lotus routine. She is not friendly enough. It is very difficult to gain popularity in the early stage, and she will die prematurely if she is not careful. Many entertainment companies dare not promote this type of business. The cost of investment is too high, the risk is too great, and the return period is extremely slim. Over the years, the emperor has only had one queen, Xiaoling. However, as soon as the Queen Xiaoling came out, other companies were even more afraid to support this type of work. The reason is very simple. Fans only need to compare people with Xiaoling. Comparing one person to another is a waste, and comparing goods has to be thrown away. Tianyi dares to promote Ye Xingling because it is under these severe pressures. When Sister Mai Na took over Ye Xingling, she was ready to work hard. At this time, her expression was stern. "Since the emperor wants to play a big game, we will accompany them. Doesn't Xiaoyu like to pretend to be sick? Let's tear off her sickly skin in front of everyone." She started making arrangements. Soon, a report from many years ago was unearthed. It was an exclusive interview with the Queen Xiaoling. In the report, the Queen Xiaoling laughed and said that her sister Xiaoyu's congenital heart disease had been cured after surgery. Once a heart disease is cured, there is almost no possibility of recurrence. How come it is such a coincidence that Xiaoyu relapses this time after being beaten by Ye Xingling? On the internet, on the radio, on the TV station, and on the street, there were voices of doubt from fans everywhere. Many people began to believe what Ye Xingling said on the official Weibo that Xiaoyu was pretending to be ill. Even some Xiaoyu fans are beginning to have doubts. Xiaoyu had to make a statement, saying with tears that she had been suffering from congenital heart disease since she was very young. At that time, the conditions in the orphanage were very poor and she had no chance to receive treatment. Thanks to God's blessing, he struggled to live to the age of 9 and was lucky enough to meet Pei Xian. She said, "Although Brother Xian sent me to the best hospital abroad, I had been sick for a long time at that time. Even after several surgeries, my condition was only controlled but not completely cured. My sister told everyone that I've recovered, but I just don't want anyone to worry about me. In fact, as long as I don't get any stimulation, my heart can be almost as healthy as a healthy person. However, after all, my heart condition is not good. I usually take good care of it, but I didn't expect it to happen this time." He was knocked to the ground hard, so he relapsed. What he said was reasonable and to the point. She also used the word harsh, hinting at how ruthless Ye Xingling was. Xiaoyu's fans, who were initially a little shaken, were reassured by her words and became firmer in their stance, becoming even more indignant. Ye Xingling fans were not so easy to give up and accused Xiaoyu of being hypocritical. In order to protect their idol, many people united and began to investigate the truth behind Xiaoyu's heart disease. "Can they find anything?" Xiaoling asked Sister Meina as she watched the situation develop. Sister Meina is confident. "What are you worried about? Boss is here. Boss has sent people to investigate the truth about Xiaoyu's condition. After finding out, we only need to spread the clues. It will be easy for fans to dig out." Ye Xiaoling felt relieved. She didn't know when she had a blind trust in Li Lei. The investigation on Li Lei was carried out secretly, and on the surface, the investigation by fans was also vigorous. Not to be outdone, Xiaoyu fan defended their idol one after another. The fight between the two sides became more intense, and the battle entered a fierce stage. Nowadays, Ye Ling has become quite well known, becoming a household name and attracting attention. However, it is basically a name calling. Compared to her, Xiaoyu made more money. She took the opportunity to win a lot of sympathy. The popularity of her songs continued to rise, and even the Genkai perfume advertisement that was just launched became a hit. Yes, the advertisement for Genkai perfume has been launched. It is the new flagship product of the season, the elegant lotus fragrance in early summer. It emerges from the silt but remains unstained, delicate and beautiful, noble and pure. Public opinions say that the theme of this advertisement is very suitable for Xiaoyu, and the beautiful woman's plain fragrance complements each other. It was the right decision for Genkai perfume to terminate its contract with Ye Ling. How could she be worthy of this lotus-like temperament? The popularity of Genkai perfume is increasing day by day, and advertisements are all over the streets. On this day, Xiaoling was in Wei Shaiyin's recording studio. The night was soft and the neon lights outside the floor-to-ceiling windows were bright. His office faces a huge electronic billboard on the street, which alternately displays Xiaoyu's advertisement, Sulian. White water lilies bloomed in the clear water. Xiaoyu, wearing a white gauze, half knelt by the water, leaned over to pick the flower not far away. There was a hint of fragility and sadness in her glazed eyes, and behind her was a pair of elf wings, so beautiful that they could not be stained by dust. A very good shot. Although in terms of quality, it is inferior to Xiaoling's mysterious swirling dance under the starry sky, but with the bonus of the Genkai perfume brand, the exposure rate is extremely high, and the popularity is far more than that of Xiaoling's. Unknown promotional video. Xiaoling stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling glass window and looked at it quietly for a long time. The sister under the lens was so far away that she felt unfamiliar. She thought, has her sister been like this since she was very young? Have you been hiding your true self from her? Or, when did it start to change? Turning into the evil-minded person he is now. Wei Shaiyin came up from behind. What are you looking at? Seeing the billboard opposite clearly, he angrily said, what are you looking at? That's the enemy. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 79. Chapter 79 Horror Night. Xiaoling calmed down her emotions and said to Wei Shaiyin, you can also appreciate the beautiful things taken by your enemies. Only by learning from the strengths of others can we become better and better on the road to stardom. Wei Shaiyin sneered, this is called beautiful photography. If it were me, I could do it 110,000 times better. Xiaoling, just wait, it won't take long, all the billboards in the streets and alleys will all change into your image. Xiaoling was in no mood to argue with him, so she said listlessly, come on. Wei Shaiyin has been very irritable recently. The creation of the theme song of Star Wings has encountered a bottleneck. The more he tries to perfect it, the worse it gets. The inspiration disappears just like an appointment. Even the manuscripts submitted by several songwriters he specially invited were not right. They had been revised countless times but still failed to meet the requirements, which made him even more emotionally unstable. After hearing Xiaoling's insincere come on, Wei Shaiyin was like a cat whose tail was stepped on. She jumped up and scolded her, saying that she had no fighting spirit and only knew how to deal with it. Xiaoling endured his lengthy nagging like a close sister. When he said for the third time, Xiaoling, please be more serious. You must have confidence in yourself and you will be able to defeat Xiaoyu. Her cell phone rang. Thank God, it was a lifesaver, she couldn't wait to pick it up. The caller was the driver responsible for picking her up. After each artist debuts, Tianyi Company will provide a special vehicle and driver. Xiaoling's driver was even more unusual, as he was appointed by Li Lei himself. The driver brought bad news. "I'm sorry, Miss Ye, my daughter suddenly had a high fever and was hospitalized. My wife is not at home on a business trip. I have to go to the hospital to take care of my daughter. I'm afraid I won't be able to pick you up tonight. Otherwise, please will the company arrange a temporary driver for you?" Xiaoling did not expect such a situation, but it is understandable that her daughter is sick. She turned her head to answer the phone, looked up at Wei Shaiyan, and said to the driver, "There's no need to arrange anyone, I'll go back by myself." Wei was so nervous tonight that she didn't want to stay here and listen to his chatter. If the company asked the company to rearrange the driver, God knows how long it would take, and she didn't want to wait any longer. She felt like she was going crazy even if she had to endure Ma Wei's nonsense for one more second. The driver was a little worried. "If you are alone, in terms of safety." "There's someone following me, it's okay," she said. After knowing that Pei Ziyan had plans for her, Li Lei not only let her live in the apartment next door to him, but also arranged for her to have bodyguards in the dark. She had seen those bodyguards, all of whom were from the Lian family, with cold and determined eyes. She guessed that they must have experienced many storms, and their posture looked like they were ready to kill anyone at any time. The driver also knew that there were bodyguards around her, so he stopped trying to persuade her. He only gave a few words of advice and then hung up the phone. Xiaoling happily said to Wei Shaiyan, "Wei, it's 11 o'clock. No one picked up today. I have to leave early. Goodbye." After saying that, he ignored his reluctant expression and quickly left and went out. "Take the elevator down to the first floor, and the two bodyguards who have been waiting here follow you and you silently. Li Lei has arranged for her to have a total of 4 bodyguards. Usually, when she is in the recording studio, 2 of them will be indoors and the other 2 will be outdoors. However, this time, when she opened the door and went out, she did not see the 2 bodyguards outside. At nearly 12 o'clock in the middle of the night, this back door exclusively for artists is hidden and quiet. The dim street lights make the place so lonely that it penetrates people. The 2 bodyguards around her reacted quickly. One quickly stepped in front of Xiaoling, and the other was already protecting her and retreating, trying to retreat into the recording studio building a few steps away. It is said that it is late and that it is fast. The bodyguard in front of him said nothing and suddenly fell down softly. There was a sound of metal shattering on the door behind her, as if something was hitting the door handle. There was not much movement, but the bodyguard who was protecting her decisively turned around, took her and swooped down, disappearing into the darkness beside her. Among the greenery, it became quiet again. Xiaoling felt short of breath and her heart was beating fast. Who arranged an ambush to attack her here? Since her rebirth, she can count all the people she has offended on one finger. Li Beer? Their hatred is not endless, let alone a mere little star. How can he have such great ability? Les Tuesday? Impossible. He didn't want to offend Li Lei, otherwise he wouldn't have given in to her at the Nanshan Club. Xiaoyu. Since they have fought openly, and so far, it seems that Xiaoyu still has the upper hand, so it is unlikely that Xiaoyu will use this method to attack her. Only one person. Pei Ziyan. Only he has such a deep obsession and such great ability, and he deliberately sent people to guard her. He wanted to kidnap her. In just a short moment, Xiaoling analyzed her current situation. When she thought of that man who was as majestic and cold as a god, her body trembled slightly and she shuddered. Once captured by him, she could not imagine what would happen to her. 3 or more attackers. The bodyguard beside her lowered her voice and said quickly. Xiaoling was flustered and didn't know what to do. There were several soft puff sounds from the trees beside me, as if something hit the branches and leaves and fell down. Several hazy figures appeared in the line of sight, seemingly holding guns in their hands, searching from far to near in a semi-surrounding formation. The bodyguard was as quiet as a ghost and cautiously moved her several times. "Stay here and don't move," he said to her in a voice as low as a mosquito's whisper during the last transfer. "I'm going to lure them away. When you hear the sound of my gun, run away immediately. Do you understand?" Xiaoling bit her lip tightly and nodded. The bodyguard took off the body armor he was wearing and put it on her body. "Look at this situation, the front and back doors of the recording studio building are guarded. Don't run into the building. Run to a crowded place on the street. Then do whatever you want. How can you let people discover that you are a star and cause a stir and crowds? The bigger the noise, the better. I have just sent an emergency signal to the headquarters. Boss said that there is a locator on your mobile phone. Reinforcements can find you easily." Time was urgent, so he spoke very fast, but his thoughts were careful and clear. Xiaoling calmed down due to his words and found her voice. "I remember." He nodded and ran out silently under the cover of the dark trees. She waited with bated breath, her palms covered in cold sweat. Finally, a gunshot was heard from somewhere nearby. Without thinking, she ran as fast as she could in her life towards a busy commercial street nearby. The wind whistled past my ears, and branches scratched my cheeks and tore the corners of my clothes. She didn't care about all these things, she just wished she could go faster and faster. She didn't know how long she ran, but the bright and bustling commercial street was getting closer and closer to her. The noisy voices of people can already be heard, and the air is filled with the unique mixed sweet fragrance of large shopping malls. Only 10 meters away, you can be under the neon lights and in the sea of people. However, just as Xiaoling was about to reach the entrance of the light, a ghostly figure appeared from the shadows ahead, holding a pistol and pointing it directly at her forehead. It is Chu Chen. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 80. Chapter 80. So you will be unhappy. Xiaoling suddenly stopped and her heartbeat almost stopped. Chu Chen's tone was calm and unruffled. "I didn't expect you to run so far, I almost missed it." She didn't speak, she stepped back, and then backed away. She turned around suddenly and was about to run back, but she unexpectedly bumped into two burly men. Their iron tower-like chests hit her painfully. They twisted her around and grabbed her with such force that they almost crushed her bones. Chu Chen walked over slowly. "Yasin Ling, don't waste your efforts," he smiled. "There is no way to escape what the boss wants." "Chu Chen, you will be punished." Xiaoling gritted her teeth, knowing that begging him was useless. This person was hard-hearted, cold-blooded, and cruel. He laughed again. "Little girl, you actually believe this? Don't be naive. By the way, I'll give you a piece of advice. Instead of worrying about me, you should really worry about yourself. Some of the things you have done recently have made your boss very unpleasant." After finishing speaking, without waiting for her reaction, he ordered the two big men, "Take her into the car." Xiaoling struggled with all her strength and opened her mouth to shout for help. Behind her, a rough hand covered her mouth, and then she felt a pain in the back of her neck and lost consciousness. When wake up. It is in a retro European-style bedroom, the chandelier is dimly lit, and the heavy wooden door is tightly closed. She was sitting on a huge round bed, which was more than enough for about 7 or 8 people to lie down at the same time. Above the top of the bed, engraved curtains and gold and silver tassels overlapped and hung down, reflecting on the velvet mattress, making their shadows look like ghosts. The surroundings were quiet, and there was no one except her. Xiaoling sat up from the bed, lowered her head, and was shocked to find that someone had changed her clothes. The half-sleeved top and light-colored trousers that she originally wore were gone, replaced by a pair of smooth silk clothes. The blouse, a very voluptuous red, was decorated with a lot of gorgeous lace. It was very loose and had a wide open neckline. She had to hold it with her hands from time to time to prevent it from slipping off her fair and round shoulders. However, this was not what frightened her the most. What frightened her the most was that the blouse barely covered her upper body, and the hem only reached the middle of her legs. With just the slightest movement, her beauty could easily be revealed. She felt like all the blood in her body was flowing backwards, and the nightmare she had once resurfaced. Mist, villa, cage. The ferocious memories came overwhelmingly. She had difficulty breathing, and her heartbeat was fast and chaotic. She crawled off the bed on hands and feet, staggered to the heavy bedroom door, and reached out to push and pull the gilded door handle. The wooden door did not move at all. Xiaoling was so scared that she hit it with her body like crazy, hard, and again. I don't know how long it took, but suddenly, the door was opened from the outside. She was unprepared, couldn't hold back, and fell down into an embrace. Look up and see the person's face clearly. The extremely handsome, majestic, and gloomy face is the devil that follows her in her deepest nightmares. Xiaoling stared at him blankly, her mind going blank. Then, he was caught off guard, his face hurt, and his ears exploded with a buzzing sound. His body flew backwards, knocking over two high-backed Nanmu carved chairs, and then fell to the carpet. Her vision was blurry, and for a moment, she thought her body had fallen apart. Pei Ziyan walked to her with slow steps and squatted down. She finally focused her eyes on him and saw his lips opening and closing. It took another moment before a sound reached her ears. "This slap is for Xiaoling," he said gloomily. "Who do you think you are and dare to insult her?" Xiaoling was confused. When had she ever scolded herself? Even though she has been reincarnated, she is not that boring. But then she realized that it must be Xiaoyu. The recent news has been making a lot of noise. Hasn't Xiaoyu been framing her, saying that she scolded her dear sister? When she thought of this, she spoke in a trembling voice, "I didn't scold." Before she could finish her words, another heavy slap came down, hitting her on the same cheek. She groaned in pain, feeling that half of her face was burning, numb and swollen. Her mouth and nose were filled with the smell of blood, and warm liquid flowed out from the corners of her lips and along the delicate porcelain white lips. The skin is thin and sinuous. Pei Ziyan reached out and gently touched her injured face. As soon as she touched it, she winced in pain. "You still dare to quibble," he said softly. His fingertips touched the corners of her lips, and a trace of blood was brought to his lips. "Yeah, who dares to insult me? Yasin Ling, you will be taught a lesson, I promise." He leaned over and looked at her with a strange look. When she was Xiaoling in her previous life, he had never looked at her like this. Even in the last and most terrifying year of her life, although the look he looked at her was ruthless, fiery, and irresistibly strong, it would never be like this now. A dead, lifeless thing. Xiaoling felt chilled in her heart. She supported her body on her elbows and retreated. He clamped her chin, want to escape. Suddenly, he picked her up roughly. She just felt like the world was spinning. Before she could struggle, she was thrown onto the huge round bed in the center of the bedroom. The bed curtain was half pressed down by her, and beads, satin and tassels staggered and fell on her body. He leaned forward, grabbed both of her wrists with one hand, and fixed them above her head. She was so frightened that she couldn't escape. She could only shout hoarsely, "Pei Ziyan, let me go." He sneered softly, "You have to pay the price for scolding my Xiaoling." "I really didn't scold her." Xiaoling was extremely flustered and frightened, suppressing the crying in her voice. "What did I scold her for? What did I scold her for?" His expression changed, and he clamped her neck with his hand. "You still have the guts to ask me? Yasin Ling, I tell you, you are the who accompanies others to laugh and win, a shameless bitch. You deserve a bad death." "Oh my God." She was stunned, it was so vicious and unpleasant. For a moment, she couldn't even feel the pain of his neck being tightly clamped. It wasn't until her blood vessels felt like they were about to explode and her breathing was almost stagnant that she struggled subconsciously, and he let go. She coughed heartbreakingly and gasped for breath. Finally recovered, but felt sad. She finally knew the reason for Pei Xian's madness, but I didn't know that someone scolding Xiaoling would make you unhappy. End of this chapter.